What is up, everybody? Tuberverse TV here today. So we even have IGN gaming journalists calling out the Sony fanboy hypocrisy, because everybody can see it plain as day. It's like, how is that Sony, whenever Sony acquires exclusives, it's a good and positive thing, but when Microsoft gets exclusive games, it's a bad thing? It's like they made marketing for Microsoft for over 10 years, almost a decade. Said Xbox had no games. Then when Microsoft buys some games, they're like the worst thing ever. It's a monopoly. They're killing gaming and all that nonsense. So even he got fed up with the nonsense and said, hey, so let me get this straight. Sony makes Final Fantasy, Street Fighter, Spider-Man, and Wolverine PlayStation exclusives. Xbox makes Elder Scrolls, Starfield, and Monsters and Activision games Xbox exclusive. Xbox equals bad. Sony equals good. Just want to make sure I have all my facts straight. So even this guy is calling these Sony fanboys out, because it is just blatant hypocrisy at this point. It's like, how is one company buying studios and publishers good when another company does it? It's a bad thing all of a sudden. Like, it's just knock it off. It's clearly biased right there. But then he also says, I did not fault either company here yet, but to imply one is good and the other is evil, then they're both doing the same thing. Smart business is ridiculous. Yeah, you can't call one of them evil and the other one good when they're both doing the same thing. That's like what a lot of Sony guys like to do. That's what we're saying right now. People are saying Microsoft is killing gaming. They're ruining gaming with this move. They're making a monopoly. When Sony does the same thing, nobody cares. They actually celebrate it. So, yeah, I'm glad somebody's calling us out, especially with a big platform he got. It's like, it's definitely calling. He's definitely put some notice of this blatant hypocrisy right here. Fair, but here you're addressing Sony fan side. What do you think of the actions of Xbox fanboys in the past years who were saying exclusives are anti-consumer, to now cheering Xbox when it bought Activision, Bethesda, from exclusives being anti-consumer to now pro-consumer? I mean, in this instance, it is pro-consumer because they all want a Game Pass. At least with Game Pass, I'm only paying $10 to $15 a month to play all these games day one. So it technically is pro-consumer. Unlike Sony charging you $70 and legit like locking properties off other systems. Like I said with the picture I used before in my previous videos. With the whole Spider-Man situation. There is whole generations of Spider-Man games from Xbox, the original Xbox 360, like at least like 10 to 12 games shown that you can play. Spider-Man was building on that platform because Sony made it exclusive. You can't even play Spider-Man's on like the PlayStation now. So it's a big difference right there. Xbox to PlayStation, you get what you effing deserve. Exactly, the progress from gaming journalists is laughable and embarrassing at all the time high, especially from Jason Schreier. Oh yeah, the gaming Karen, Jason Schreier. The guy who just blocks anybody who's pro Xbox in any shape or form. But it's not the same. Sony good, Microsoft bad, and it's a pony crying at that. Regardless of the platform, I think it's weird when people put more value in a game or franchise because somebody else doesn't get to play it. I'm sorry, Miles. I can only enjoy stuff like Persona and Mana when the dude bros who play sports and shooter games on Xbox don't have access. You love to bet about Sony growing organically, and every time somebody turns on Xbox to cut down a tree in the Amazon rainforest. Yeah, they like to say Sony grew their stuff organically. I don't even know what that even means. It's like they bought every studio was a third party at once, like Insomniac, who made games for Xbox at one point. Sunset Overdrive, they made that exclusive. So I don't get this organic nonsense. Like they do the same thing Microsoft did. My issue was less about the exclusives and more about the size of this particular acquisition. Corporate consolidation is bad for the industry in general. Where was this energy for Tencent? I would even say, where was this energy for Sony when Sony been doing this for the longest? Like, we only seen this corporate consolidation nonsense now. Like, I haven't only heard this phrase until now, to this Microsoft Blizzard acquisition. I haven't heard this any time before when Sony bought any of these studios for exclusives. Damn, Dustin trying to get canceled too? I used to play Spider-Man games on Xbox. That was a good mode, as I've been told, apparently. Yeah, this was such a great game right here, which we would never see on Xbox ever again. Because Sony is making it PlayStation exclusive. Are you comparing exclusivity, sometimes exclusives, with an entire editor's catalog of IP exclusivity? It's unfair in my opinion. You only feel the war by the form of your comparison. When we playing Street Fighter 5 on Xbox? Never. And there's even a tweet from Insomniac of an Xbox fan saying, "When can we play Spider-Man on our Xbox system?" And they said never. They should have just said never. But yeah, so it's funny how Microsoft does it as a bad thing, while Sony does it as a good thing. Look, this is the picture I was referring to. All these Spider-Man games were on different Xbox platforms before, but now they're not, which just sucks. Sony is good, but not as good as Xbox Game Pass. Okay. I don't normally like to get into threads that could eventually become extremely toxic, but Dustin is 1,000% correct in saying there is an industry double standard clear as glass going on within the community. Just saying. You see, Dustin, the difference is Xbox is using his daddy's wallet to buy these exclusives to remain competitive and gain market share, when Sony, on the other hand, is taking advantage of the dominant market position to gain access to these exclusives and kill the competition. Spider-Man and Wolverine was Sony making a deal with Disney and others was Sony's money. It's not an Xbox problem that Sony has a lot less money than Microsoft. Okay. Very good point. I would love Xbox doesn't make its own IP, they just buy them. Sony didn't make any of those games listed. They were already pre-existing games. Stop the nonsense. Yeah. This whole narrative they're just trying to go with to try to take them, make sound like they're these noble people when they did the same thing and they bought these other studios. So Microsoft does the same thing, and now how's it a bad thing now? It's all competition at the end of the day. You can't make this stuff up. True facts right there. Remember though, Bethesda and Activision will lose out on huge money if their games don't go to one single console. Microsoft, the $2 trillion company, I just don't know how they will survive. Yeah, that'd be so funny. When it'd be like, Microsoft can't sustain, Xbox can sustain, they won't make their money back, they can't sustain their games being on one platform. And they're talking about the $2 trillion company. Like, it just makes no sense. This is like one of the richest companies in the world, but they won't. These so-called financial analysts are just terrible. So he says, okay for Sony PS5 time exclusives, but not okay for Microsoft Xbox or Xbox Game Pass. That sounds about right. Apparently it's okay to remove Xbox from games. It is competition, but if they buy studios and get committed to them, know that it's pure evil. And some of the PlayStation fans don't think they can keep the same energy when we get exclusives on Xbox, and Sony can't even share things like Spider-Man as a playable character on Avengers. Yeah. So he says, Final Fantasy, you Xbox players only bought 10% of the total sales of the game. Business logic is not making the games. Street Fighter, Capcom was in a complicated situation. Then you omit to mention it. Spider-Man is a Sony's IP. Wolverine, PlayStation making something new. Why do ponies keep saying that lie? Spider-Man is not a Sony IP. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Marvel made Spider-Man, so I don't know why they keep saying that. Pretty sure Sony got a deal to make the movies, but Spider-Man isn't a Sony IP. They didn't make Spider-Man. Marvel did, so that's another lie they keep going with right there, or misinformation they keep spreading. So he says, this guy 100% knows the difference between buying an entire publisher and timed exclusivity. If Sony bought Disney, Square Enix, and Capcom, then that's equal. Also, Spider-Man and Wolverine are made by Insomniac. They're not the same. Third party Sony bought out of nowhere. PS5. They both suck. Are people actually this effing out of touch? Buying a whole publisher is not the same as making time exclusives or original exclusives. Jesus Christ, you are retarded. Jeez. Video games equals good. The toxicity of gamers is just unreal. Bad opinion, both good, both have flaws. Probably the worst take I have ever seen on this. Buying individual studios that already make exclusive titles for your system does not equate to buying out entire publishers. Time exclusives equals not even forever exclusives. This tweet needed more time in the oven. Really? Because he says buying individual studios that make exclusive titles for your system does not equate to buying entire publishers. What? They didn't just lock out the Final Fantasy games? Like Final Fantasy 7 Remake and Final Fantasy 16 will be Sony exclusive. And Final Fantasy 14 as well. Those are PlayStation exclusive games. So they did lock out entire franchises and stuff. So what is he talking about? And he said timed exclusives. Yeah, wasn't Final Fantasy 7 supposed to be a timed exclusive? That changed to being a forever exclusive now. So I'm not sure. He thought he said this tweet needs more time in the oven. His tweet needs more time in the oven. His reply needs more time in the oven. This is a cartoonishly bad take. The blue side is a bunch of hypocrites. It's perfectly fine until it's done on the other side. Having time to give it to him, this really is a proper stupid take. Okay, sure, the endgame may be the same. Exclusive content like to a platform by $1 million publishers for exclusive just hits different, and having larger ramifications to the industry. Regarding Final Fantasy and Street Fighter, Square and Capcom can still release other games. How long is this video right now? Yes, I'm gonna conclude it right here. But once again, as someone in the industry actually called these guys out for being hypocrites. It was like in the fact they keep fighting back. They apparently don't think they're hypocrites because they say that, hey, Sony is still good and Microsoft bad. You're still proving this point if you're fighting back to this response. You still prove this point, because how can you make up Sony being good for buying these exclusives, locking these games out, but Microsoft was bad for doing the same thing? So I don't get these guys, but whatever. Definitely want to see your thoughts down below about this one. Leave a like if you like this video. And as always, thanks for watching, and peace.